So I think we should be live now on LinkedIn, here on StreamYard. Always there's a connection between them both, and sometimes it's not working. But maybe you can let me know also in the comments if you can hear us loud and clearly, and if it's working on your end as well. I think Laura posted also in the event page the link, so it should be all fine. Good. So yeah, hello first of all, Raphael. Great to talk to you and have you here. So today we are talking about GDPR, which is for a lot of people not the most favorite topic first, but it will be, especially when you are a founder starting your own company, and you need, or a seller as well, and you need to deal with GDPR rules. So that's why we have Raphael here. I'm David. I'm the CEO of LeadChat, and LeadChat is a tool that connects your LinkedIn with your CRM, and you can easily push new contacts from a LinkedIn profile to your CRM and have contact updates and synchronize your messages. And Raphael is our DPO, so our data protection officer. Raphael has more than, I think, 8 years experience in that field. He worked for the European Commission on other big corporates, and now he started his own company since the beginning of the year. So since that time, he's also with deepio, that's the name of his company, our data protection officer. And for us, it's pretty cool because it's a subscription, which we are used to as we are a SaaS company. So you can subscribe to deepio, and you will have all the services, having a DPO on your side, and can ask all the questions. What we did, especially at the beginning, where we had a lot of questions, and especially when we are in need for documents, also in our sales process, when we deal with companies and they ask us about GDPR, then we have, thanks to DPO, everything ready, and yeah, pixel perfect, how we say in tech language. So thanks for having you, Raphael. Thanks for having you here and participating.
And thank you very much, David. It's really nice, and thank you for introducing. It's really thankful, and I'm really pleased to do this event with you, with LeadChat. Of course, I'm following you since 1 year, as you said, and I'm really pleased to be your DPO and to see you growing month after month. It's really great. So yeah, the topic of today is to explain exactly what you don't have, the mistakes you need to not to do when you begin a company, because of course, as a DPO, I've seen many mistakes, and there are some mistakes where the same done by startups. So yeah. Mistake 1.
And at the end, also before you start, maybe Raphael, what is important, when you stay on the line, at the end we have also a big GDPR playbook you will get. So there you will find all the different common mistakes in a written form. So today we are just talking about 8 mistakes. There were 8 critical mistakes for us also. So if you don't want to go to jail, which is the headline of our today's webinar, you should really follow these steps and learn something. So stay on the line to get the ebook at the end. And I'm very happy to go through the first mistake with you, Raphael.
Thanks, David. So the first mistake I've seen a lot with startups, and a lot in startups located in Station F, is to use a label, GDPR label. You publish in your website a beautiful GDPR compliant label, but you are not compliant. And of course, this is a main issue, because if you are not compliant, you cannot say that you are compliant, because you are providing false information to everyone. And to be compliant, you need to comply with many things. So you have to inform people with your privacy policy. You need to secure your tool, your device, your information system. You have to do privacy by design. You have to do many things. Of course, you can have a data protection officer like us, of course, but it's not always an obligation. But you need to do some actions to be compliant. And it's quite easy to check if you are not if you are not compliant or not. You just need to go in your website and to check the privacy policy, to check if you have a data protection agreement, if you are a data processor, and so on. And in few seconds, you can see if you are not if you are or not compliant. And of course, so if you are providing a label and you are not compliant, this is really, really dangerous for you. For instance, Lijet, so what did you do to be, are you ready to be GDPR compliant, for instance?
Yes, so here we have two components. It's product and design. First of all, when we started to really create our product, as we are dealing with very sensitive information between the two big platforms, LinkedIn and the CRM, we thought about, okay, first, are we a data processor or a data controller? So what does that mean? Processing information is that we send information from A to B, like in a tunnel or funnel, and we're not storing the information. So we have no view on your information in the CRM or any of that. The controller of that information is you. So it's either controlled on the LinkedIn interface or it's controlled on the CRM. So that was for us very important at the beginning, to be a data processor as a company. And then also what is very important in our product, because as we are integrating to the LinkedIn API, it's for us very, very important to stick with LinkedIn guidelines and rules. Meaning that we as a tool don't do any automation on LinkedIn. We don't click ourselves like a robot with the tool through different pages and extract information. That wouldn't be GDPR friendly, and that also wouldn't stick with the LinkedIn rules. So these two things were kind of the most important steps for us to take. Next to that, as a company, of course, since we also have you, Raphael, we have a lot of documentation for that, and that's also important to have really, as a company, a good reputation. So have all these documents ready, have a Q&A here about, and at a later stage also, but for an early startup, also not easy to get the necessary security certificates, which can be ISO certificate, SOC2 certificate. But these are costly, around about 20 or even more thousand. So we are getting this next year, I guess. But at the beginning, if you're not funded with $1 million as a bootstrap business, it's hard to get one of these certifications. But we are GDPR friendly and ready for that. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. So the mistake 2 is thinking that GDPR doesn't apply to startups. Of course, a lot of startups are saying that, no, I'm too small. I just beginning my activity, my business. I'm not processing many data. So don't be worried. I'm not covered by the GDPR, which is of course not the case. The startups are now one of the most targeted, one of the main targets of the supervisory authority, like the CNIL in France. Why? Because in France, for instance, a lot of startups are processing a lot of data and are doing a digital business. So of course they are targets. Okay, and the GDPR always apply to everyone. If you are a startup located within the EU, you are of course under the GDPR. If your clients, if you are not, for instance, if you are not located within the EU, but outside the EU, but you are targeted people which are them inside the EU. Therefore, you have to comply with GDPR. And whatever the size is, whatever the turnover is, and so on. And there are some examples of startups that thought they were outside the GDPR compliance, and they have been convicted, and I think they are almost die now. For instance, you have Nestor in France. I don't know if the audience know Nestor, but Nestor was a startup which was working pretty well a few years ago, and they were doing marketing automation without any limits and without complying with GDPR. And of course, someone did a claim to the supervisory authority in France. And then, of course, they have been prosecuted and convicted, and now they still exist, but it's really hard for them because for their reputation, as said David before, it's really important to comply with GDPR. And here you have just some example of risk. Of course, you can see criminal sentence. Don't be worried. It's really rare to be sentenced to go to jail. It's possible, but it's really rare. It's only in a really specific case. But the main risks could be your image, could be financial, and it can come from you and coming from your clients, partners, and even competitors. So it's really important when you are a startup to be compliant, because, for instance, your competitor, I've seen it before, can check, as we said before, you can go on your website, check if you are not compliant, and then doing complaint to the supervisory authority in order to disturb their own competitors. And so who are, David, Leadjet's clients? Do you have to respect the GDPR rules?
Yes, we do have to. So first of all, clients nowadays are, I think, 50% almost from the US, because that's the nature, as we are integrating to the major US CRMs like Salesforce and HubSpot. So most of our clients are from the US, and then it's like 15% France, and then Germany after, and then rest of the world. So especially in Europe, especially for Germany and France, we need to stick to GDPR rules. It's a bit less for the US, but I can also, from the beginning, really, it's from the beginning of our journey as a startup, there's really a danger that you can fall into a trap. What do I mean? I mean, we are a bootstrap business, so we have no money at the beginning for sales guys to perform sales. So we need to somehow gain our customers in a cheap way. Omar always says in a cheap French way. I don't know what he means with that, but I know a lot of French companies where we always try to have a methodology where we can acquire customers in a cheap way. So I was new to that. And what possibilities do we have then as a young and early startup? Of course, and that's why I say trap, there can be the trap of these cheap selling, meaning that you buy lead data. You get, I think, every one of us, a lot of emails all the time from various countries saying, do you want to buy 5,000 leads for your specific business, high quality leads, etc. So you can fall into that trap and buy lead databases and then try to nurture these leads by mass emailing, for instance. And then that's the next trap. So not only that you bought lead data, which is not GDPR friendly, then you're sending even emails, cold emails, which is also not GDPR friendly because they didn't opt in. So that's the second mistake. And also it's not good for reputation, because as a young startup, you can make mistakes not only by doing that, also by the art of kind of prospecting, meaning that you reach out in a way which is not very well researched. So you send one message to 5,000, for instance. Of course, then you make maybe a mistake with the placeholder. So these are all things. You have not a lot of possibilities, but for us as a startup, the best way of doing was multi-channel marketing, nurturing slowly, really research our customers and the ideal customer profile, and then do the first step on LinkedIn, which kind of is a way in between. LinkedIn is a business network. So if you connect with someone, you have somehow a business interest. And then after you drop the first message, you can then follow up maybe with an emailing. So that's an easy step into the door. And this then worked for us, having longer sequences and nurturing, but don't fall into the trap of buying lead data from somewhere shady and then sending out cold emails without warming them up on another platform or getting in connection, especially for Europe. For US, that may work. And actually, I also did that when I was in the US. I looked on a event page and on the speaker list, and then I kind of tried myself all the different variations of the first last name at company.com. So I got a result at the end, and then I pushed a message to, it was back then a big CEO of a big $1 billion business. Actually, that worked, and he got back to me, and I had a call with him. But that may work in the US, and yeah, it was back in the study. So I really would suggest to you, don't do that in Europe. Yeah. And of course, yeah, Laura, thanks. If you have any comments and questions, put them in the chat, either if it's for Raphael, for GDPR rules, or either if it's to our journey we had with lead chat so far, and sticking to the GDPR rules. Yeah. But yeah, that was the question. So definitely we need to look out for GDPR and stick to that for our customer base.
Yeah, thank you, David. So mistake-free, using a processor which is not GDPR compliant. So David explained a bit before what is a processor. So a processor is someone who is processing your personal data on your behalf. So you have a lot of processor. Of course, EasyJet is a data processor. I know of course, EasyJet is your processor. And what it means? It means that if you are, it means that I begin again. To really understand what it is about, you need to understand that in GDPR you have two different kinds of actor. You have the data controller and you have the data processor. The data controller is the one who is defining the purpose and the means of a processing. So, for instance, if you are a boss, you have employees, you are the data processor of your employees for all human resources purposes, of course, such as paying a bill, the payroll, paying the I don't know if I'm paying the ticket of the transport and so on. And if you are using a service advisor such as LeadJet, who is using your personal data, is helping you to use your personal data, is a data processor. And what does it mean in the GDPR way? It means that you as a data controller, you have obligation. And one of this obligation is to control, to monitor your own data processors. Even if you have 50 processors, GDPR doesn't care about this. You need to process all your data processors. And it means that you need to have data protection agreement, or you data processor can have it in their own contracts, but you need to have something with managing your relations with your data processor, and you need to normally you need to do audits. I don't know, maybe each year or each 2 years. You need to ask to your processor if it's compliant or not. Because if you are not doing this, and there is a problem from your data processor, then it will be you will be liable. That's why you will really have to check and to verify before recruiting your data processor. You have to verify that this data processor is complying. And that's why we were saying before with David that it is really important, even if you as a startup, you as a data processor, to be compliant, because if you want to grow, you will need to be compliant sometimes, because your clients will ask you to be compliant. So this is really, really important. In one side, if you are data controller, you need to check that your processors are compliant. If you are data processor, you need to be compliant. So is prospecting through LeadJet is GDPR friendly?
Yeah. So first of all, product-wise, maybe let's start with that. It is so when you work with lead chat, working on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn data, a profile on LinkedIn. This data is first of all public available, and on LinkedIn, as I said before, it's a platform for recruiting and kind of business networking. So if there's a legitimate business interest, it's totally okay to contact them, send a request, and send them a first message. And this is actually also what we advise to do. As I said, the first step into the door, better to do it via LinkedIn and check for their interest, and then maybe follow up with an email. But having a cold email instead, and having no opt-in before, thanks to email newsletter or something, is dangerous, and it's not sticking to the GDPR rules. So that's why we say, okay, let's do social selling approach together with lead chat on LinkedIn. You can warm up the leads and prospect them through multiple channels later than email. So that's totally fine from product wise. And also we as a company, as you said correctly, Raphael, we are a data processor. So what we do, we just transfer the data from one platform to another without really storing the data. So you as a salesperson, as Raphael said as well, you are the controller of the data, meaning when you have the phone number, you are in control of the phone number, and it's up to you if you want to call the prospect or not. We as lead chat can't do that. So that's very important to know. It's nothing else when you just have a pen and paper and you just transfer the information from LinkedIn to your CRM. It's the same what you do with pen and paper, as we are no robot or something that does that for you. So yeah, that's it. We are GDPR friendly, I'm happy to say.
I confirm. Mistake 4, which is really important, we ask about it a lot, many times since the beginning of this webinar, but it's really important to really provide you some more details. It's important to comply with opt-in rules, of course, because previously I talked about Nestor. Nestor, the startup, has been convicted by the CNIL, the French Supervisory Authority. They have been convicted because they didn't comply with opt-in rules. Okay, and they have something like they've been convicted, sentenced to 20,000 euros, something like that, during the COVID. It was really hard for them. So what is opt-in first? Of course, maybe you have all heard about it. The opt-in is the obligation to gather the prior consent of people before sending them direct marketing emails. What you need to know is in France, in France that is for sure, but it's quite the same in Europe. You can the specific rule, the opt-in is only working for email and SMS. It's not working for phone and postal mail. That's why you can have in your mailbox many mails with your name that has been sent by someone. That's why in France, nobody has a phone on. How to say? We don't have a home phone now because everyone is phoning at your home. Each company wants to provide you with some direct marketing. So that's why in France, direct marketing is only for email and SMS. So on the contrary, it means that you can send messages. You can do a phone call to anyone without checking without having their prior consent. Okay, so this is really important too, because now we are mostly sending messages, email, to check that you can do this. Of course, don't worry, if there is some exception in Europe and in France, because you have to gather the opt-in, but only in B2C situation. In B2B situation, you don't have to gather the prior consent. For instance, if David from Leadjet was not my client, I could send him a message saying, okay, do you have a DPO? Do you need a DPO? Because I'm providing this such service. Because he will be, of course, interested, not of course by DPO, but by being compliant. So I can send him a message, but because we are in B2B situation, okay? So this is really important. Okay, I'll just say that. Okay, I already say that. So, and so HolyJet design HolyJet comply with opt-in and opt-out rules.
Yeah. So first of all, for the opt-in, as we are mainly treating inbound leads, we have different opt-ins. For instance, for our email newsletter, we have ebooks we send away. So here we have a landing page to get the ebook where you need to opt in, of course. Also for our webinar attendees, you need to opt in to send a follow-up email, or for instance, a GDPR playbook after. So here we have different opt-ins, and we use that inbound channels mainly. Next to that, we also can have an opt-out in our email newsletter. Of course, there's an unsubscribe button, and we also have opt-outs in our messages. This we can also show you later, or you will find it as well in the GDPR playbook. What is an opt-out message? For instance, I write at the end, if you don't want to further receive this content, etc., we won't send you a follow-up message, etc. So this can also be an opt-out message inside LinkedIn even. So when you use one of our templates, or when you use our template feature, and we will give away some GDPR templates, then you can have an opt-out message template as well. And that's how we do at LeadChat at the moment, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And of course, the following mistake is not complying with GDPR rules. And this one could be appears to be odd, but actually, I receive a lot of email on my own email box as a DPO and as a CEO of DPO. So I'm in a B2B situation, but so they can send me a message, why not? But they forget something really important, is that you always need to provide the possibility to unsubscribe, to be deleted from the database, of course. And a lot of people think that you just need the prior consent. No, you need the opt-in first, and then you need the opt-out. It's an obligation. That means that you really need in each in messages, you need to provide to integrate a message which provides the possibility to unsubscribe, to opt out. Okay, and of course it's free of charge, and so on. Of course, this is, for instance, an example of an email you have to send. You can think that this is really long, but a really large message. But it's really important to provide all of this information. You need to inform the source of the information, where you give her the information. For instance, LinkedIn, social networks, and so on. And you need to explain how they can unsubscribe. Okay, for instance, here they can unsubscribe by sending stop to an email, and you have to provide more information. You need to really provide all information, but you can integrate an email, a link, sorry, right here, that will lead to your privacy policy and inform people about the processing you are doing. And so to summarize, you need to, the opt-out needs to integrate the possibility to withdraw the prior consent, and needs to integrate the information about the processing. So these are example of widgets when they are doing they are sending message on LinkedIn, because if you are doing prospection marketing email on messages on LinkedIn, you need this kind of message, the opt-outs. So here you can see that people can unsubscribe, and right here it's the same for widgets. Yeah, right here. So this is really important, and this could be something that people do not think. Okay.
Yeah. And so for everyone who didn't have the chance to make a screenshot, you will get this template. So no worries. But sorry, I was interrupting.
No, that's why you're right. And so, how are you doing the opt-out? Because we talked about the opt-in, David, and now the opt-out. Maybe you talked about it before, but if you want to provide more details.
No, I think as we don't use a lot of, at the moment, kind of outreach messages anymore, but these were the templates we used. Because at the moment we are kind of changing a bit our strategy more to APM accounts. And now that was basically what we did. We have in messages opt-outs. And as I said, if we have a reply that someone doesn't want to receive messages anymore from us, we stop a sequence, for instance, or all that. But as I said, we did that more at the beginning and do it less now, only for very high ABM account-based marketing accounts in a very researched way. So yeah, that's it.
And one of the last mistake, it's the last mistake, thinking that complying with cookie rules is enough. Why it's a mistake? Because a lot of people are thinking that, okay, I have a cookie policy, I have a cookie banner, then I am perfectly compliant and I don't have to do any more things about GDPR. Of course, this is not true. If you have a cookie banner, if you have a cookie privacy, this is a good thing. This is nice, but it's only maybe 10% of your GDPR compliance. For instance, the cookies are only related to your website, but if you want to be compliant, it's not only your website. It's your website. It's your human resources. It's your client databases. It's your products, and so on and so on. So you have to you really need to understand that being compliant GDPR is not only having a good website, having something, having one thing and having another thing. It's really a whole thing. You have a lot of things to do, that's why it could be complicated. And having only a cookie policy or cookie banner is not sufficient, and it could be really bad for you, because to have a cookie banner, you need to pay a tool. And if you pay a tool each month not to be compliant, you are paying for nothing, actually. So it's really tips. If you need the tips, it's either you don't do anything or you do everything. And the last one, the last question is a mistake, is thinking that GDPR does not allow to upload personal data in a CRM or to use a marketing automation tool. Why it's a mistake? It's a mistake because GDPR doesn't forbidden to you to do such things. Of course, if you are using a CRM, or if you are using any tools to do marketing, they are not against GDPR rules. And this is really something that people think, okay, I cannot use this kind of tool because it's not compliant. No, as we said before, they are data processors. They have obligations. provided by the GDPR, okay. But if they are complying with the GDPR, and if you are complying with your GDPR, you of course can upload information to CRM and so on. And for this, if you are, for instance, a data processor, you need to be compliant, to do different kind of things, such as the privacy by design. For instance, which is privacy by design is to check during the development of your products that you are at all steps that you are complying with GDPR. For instance, that you are okay. You can allow people to unsubscribe. Okay, you can help your client to comply with right to be forgotten and so on. And if you are complying with all these conditions, it means that your tool is by design compliant, and then it can be sell, of course, and be used by your clients. And it's the case with Leadjet, because David, how Leadjet design its products to be complying with GDPR rules?
Yeah, and here's again another trap, or a trap for every startup founder, because at the beginning, it's always when you start your company, of course, you think about, okay, how can I grow that company pretty fast, and how can I gain, when you're a SaaS business, new MRR quickly? How can I get new monthly recurring revenue? So for us, it was very important, and don't fall into this trap of new revenue gains for making mistakes on the product which is not GDPR compliant. And for instance, we could have went to the mass automation market, meaning that we scrap lists as a robot, that we send messages on a big scale as a mass automation tool. Of course, this can attract a lot of users, because it's the more automation, the less things to do for me as a sales. But this can backfire within your business after some months, years, whatever. Because if you don't stick with your product to the GDPR rules, of course, you have in a later stage problems. So you may have quick revenue gains, but in a later stage, you may have other problems. So that's why for us, it was very important before starting the product, launching the product, that we check for each feature that we develop, that we stick to the GDPR rules. Meaning, for instance, we have the Add to CRM button on the profile page. We could have it also somewhere else, or even before. But we try to make our product as sufficient to the user, as easy to the user, that we always follow the user steps and not doing the steps for the user. Meaning you have this Add to CRM button when you click on the profile. So we force the user to go to the profile and then get this information. We just eliminate the copy and pasting, what I meant with the pen and paper. You can also look on the screen, write it down, and then put it somewhere in the CRM. So that's the same process, just a productivity hack for you with Leadjet. And I think that's so important to understand. And this is for all of our features. We don't develop any feature when it is not sticking to the GDPR rule. That's important for us. Don't look for quick MRR gains. Look for long-term, that your product and your customers are on the safe side. So that's why we even advise, thanks to your help, Raphael, our customers with a GDPR playbook and different templates. So yeah, that's how we do with Leadjet. And I think the things I mentioned before with the data processor, another controller, that's also clear. But that would be my biggest, or our biggest learning for each startup founder or early stage startup. Yeah.
Okay, I think it was the last slide, David.
Yeah.
Stop sharing.
So yeah, maybe just quick what I was saying. We have a new feature coming out. It's called the contact update feature. And here we also looked, before designing the feature, into GDPR. So of course, a lot of sales problems, they have a problem at the end of the year. Perfect, you hear me again. So at the end of the year, that they need to update their CRM contact database, because people change jobs over the year. and now someone is working at Google and not any longer at Facebook. So Raphael, you hear me as well. So what you need to do then as a sales, you need to go through that list and see for updates, change that in your CRM. So it's a very manual process and it takes a lot of steps. What we do with LeadJet now is that we notify you about outdated contacts. So in the LeadJet product on LinkedIn, we push you a notification, say, here, Paul is now working at Google and not any longer at Facebook. And then you have a link to his profile. So you do the action and you go to his profile and then you do the action of update. So you are aware that we do that for you. Of course, we could have designed the feature that we do as a product, everything for you, so that we have an auto update. We don't ask you, we just keep your database updated. But this wouldn't stick to GDPR rules. And that's what I meant. Before you design such a feature, or we design a feature, we really look if we're sticking to these GDPR rules and that each of our users can follow each of our actions as a product as well. I think that's most important. And Raphael, I can't see you anymore, but anyway, that was the end, 45 minutes of our little session about GDPRs and mistakes you can do, but you shouldn't do as a company, as a startup, especially. So reach out if you have any questions to Raphael or me, but in terms of GDPR, Raphael is the expert, as we reach out every month to him. He has really a cool service with deepio. So you can have a subscription service and have him as your DPO and ask him any question you want. And that really helped us since the beginning of the year also to gain clients and have all the necessary documentation ready. So thanks a lot, Raphael. Thanks a lot to everyone else for participating. It was a pleasure. And we send you the ebook afterwards with all the templates. And otherwise, I would also love if you test LeadJet, of course. Always a little ad for us as well. And have a good Christmas season, Advent season to you and all your beloved ones. And thanks for that. We have another webinar on Thursday together with Drop Contact, where we talk also about our cooperation. And let's tune in. And otherwise, I wish you all a good rest of the day. Bye-bye. See you.